Yeah, go live and also record it.
Okay. So do I go back to, how do I record here?
Come back to me.
Yeah. Record to the computer or to the cloud?
To the cloud.
Okay. But it didn't, that voice didn't come on.
Yes, it did. Come
It
on for
did?
me. Yeah. Yeah.
So Renee, I can't hear you. Are you muted?
No. You can't hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, go into your microphone and press the little arrow.
But it's not me, it's her. Can you hear me, Renee?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
I know, Mum.
Yeah. Yeah.
Press the microphone arrow next to the microphone.
Yeah.
And what does it say the output is?
It's my mic.
That's right, press speaker. The input needs to be the mic and the output needs to be your speaker.
Okay.
You want to test me again?
Right. I think I'm right now, Jeanette. Renee, can you speak?
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can.
Yay!
All right. Awesome. All right. Thanks, Juliet. Bye. Okay. I'm so bad with technology that we got there. Oh, goodness.
Hey, streaming to Facebook used to be really easy. It's not so easy anymore.
Yeah, I know. They got rid of all of that about a year ago, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Juliet does it normally, but today I'm flying solo. So anyway, we're here. So everyone, thank you for joining us and welcome to She's of Love. I'm flying solo today with Renee and I'm super excited. And our topic today is rising through shame. Is that right? I think.
Yeah,
rising
shame.
through shame. Yeah. How to deal with rising shame. That's it. And I think this topic for me is a huge one because people can use shame. They can weaponize it and use it against you to keep you quiet or to keep you small. And it used to work on me.
Yeah.
It used to be very, very effective on me. And now I'm at a stage in my life where it actually raises a roar in the pit of my stomach. And I feel like I want to roar at them, and scream at them and say, don't you speak to me, like that kind of thing. And I know that comes from a childhood wounding in me. But it's still there. I used to kind of like cower and kind of want to run away. And now I want to stand and fight. But I want to get to a point where I can just be like, well, that's you, that's not me, because it's not coming from me. That sort of shame, that layer of shame that people put out there, it's not mine. Even though it still triggers me. So I want to get to a point where I can feel, separated from it. And that's what I wanted to talk to you about today, Renee. Do you have any wise words to part?
I have so much to say around this. The first thing that it's so layered, right? So when you say that that it comes from childhood, right? And it's because that, particularly as a woman, we were raised to be muted,
Yes.
to be silenced. We were raised in an ecosystem whereby our voices were not welcome.
Yeah.
And so the truth of the matter is the world isn't built for a powerful woman.
Yes, so true.
The world doesn't know what to do with a powerful woman, and all we have to do is exist, and it triggers everybody around us, or has the potential to do so, right?
Yes.
If those people aren't anchored in their truth and in their power. And what happens when a strong woman who is anchored in her power, and then there's someone else who's wavering, right? And so, really, what happens then is it becomes a dance of control, it becomes a
Right.
dance of dominance. And now this isn't the power of dominance. Of course, there's a beautiful power to dominance, but this is what I would call the false power to being dominant, right? So being the false power of being dominant is being controlling and being manipulative and weaponizing shame in order for our own personal agenda and personal gain. Right? So, whereby if someone is anchored in their dominance, in the beauty of it, which is, I am a benevolent human,
Yes.
whereby we can both win and we can both be strong, we can both be abundant, and you can have your truth and I can have mine, and they can be conflicting, and we can still hold each other in love.
You know, Renee, it used to be like that when I was growing up as a child. I would see people having discussions, even as a young teenager at school. You know, us
Mm.
kids, we would have discussions about things and we could agree to disagree. And sometimes if it was more important than agreeing to disagreeing, we could say, okay, that's your opinion, that's my opinion.
Mm.
We can't see eye to eye. Let's move on from here.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
still continue to be friends.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like over the years that kind of energy between people has eroded.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people are more now right fighters than any other time, because I can have a discussion with somebody. I feel that I can discuss something with someone. And if I feel that they're not agreeing with me or they can't see my point of view, I can pull away without feeling diminished.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
From the conversation. So when, particularly online, when people are arguing and the right fighting starts,
Yeah.
I see that dynamic happening and I kind of go, okay, now's the time to de-escalate. And people don't, I feel like people don't really do that anymore.
No.
It's very difficult for people to hold the point within themselves and know their own worth and still be able to walk away.
Yeah.
It's like you have to be able to hold that contradiction within yourself
Yeah.
and allow it to just be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I've
Because
seen it disappear over the years.
yeah. Yeah. I think that, even if you look back through, and you're right, it has, right? Because even if you look at journalism, right? Journalism, let's say 50, even 20 years ago,
Yeah.
it was very different to what it is today. It was like a journalism was having a neutral, unbiased view, whereby journalists told the story from multiple different angles without having an opinion.
Yeah.
Right? Slowly over time, and largely I think because of the internet and blogging, and journalism really begun to take on a new voice, a personal voice,
Yeah.
right? And so whereby then now journalism, the media, it's opinion pieces,
Yes.
right? And so that, and they will go in with an agenda, with an angle in how they want to portray this person, this story, right? And so it's to suit whatever narrative of their choosing, right?
Yeah.
They're telling one side of the story, not all sides of the
Yes.
story. And so, but where in journalism, in the beginning, it was there's two sides, more than two sides to every story. It's up to us to tell that story, research that story, understand it from every single side, and then present and tell the story,
Yeah.
right? And so we're now it's not like that. It's, I will have an opinion. I will read all the stuff that actually builds evidence to back my side up, but I won't understand any other option. And not only that, I will see you as wrong and I will see you as the enemy.
Yes. Yes, that is it. If you have a different opinion to somebody else, you're seen as the enemy, which is
Yeah.
where the weaponized shame comes out.
Yes.
They're
Yeah.
they weaponize it to shut you up or to put you in your corner or whatever.
Yeah.
And I feel I'm fortunate that I grew up learning that journalism was very not biased.
Mm.
Its job was to present all the facets of a story.
Yeah.
And growing up, seeing that and knowing and learning that, because we learnt about journalism at school, and that was one of the very, very clear messages that we got
Yeah.
from our research in journalism, was that you cannot be biased.
Yeah.
And I saw it changing over the years, and I feel fortunate that I got to see what it was like before.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I can now discern
Yeah.
when something is being said from a place of trying to influence me rather than trying to give me all the facts.
Yeah.
And so I've stopped watching the news because of that.
Yeah.
I don't watch it anymore. And also, when I'm watching things on the internet, I'm very, very careful about the way people present information to me because of that influencer factor, which I think is very prevalent today on the internet.
Yeah.
So I think this conversation has gone to a place where I find it very interesting because I never associated that feeling of shame, the weaponized shame that I'm dealing with, this topic.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it makes perfect sense though.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it all filters down in how we process information, right? How we connect with other people, And so it's really important that, we begin to question, well, why? Why do we do this? Why is it that people are so triggered? Why can't we hold multiple truths at once without seeing the other person as wrong or the enemy, right? And it really comes down to fear, right? Fear and a lack of connection to self. And you touched on it perfectly, is because when you were raised and we were presented with all sides of a story, what do? We can use our discernment.
Yes.
We can go, we make a well-rounded opinion based on all the facts and what feels true for us. So we have our discernment. And slowly over time, that discernment has been insecurely attached, you might say, to a very warped narrative.
Right.
So we've it's like our discernment has and our autonomy has been stolen promise, right? It's been stolen little pieces and little pieces, and then it's sold back to us in little shards of information.
Yeah, that's so well put. I love that description because that's what it feels like.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so really what we need to do is really anchor down in our connection to self. Practice that power and that autonomy. I call it embodied autonomy, right? Whereby we feel the truth moving through our bodies
Yeah.
and actively research multiple sides of the story. I believe this, I'm hearing this. How is the opposite also true?
Yes.
And then forming a well-rounded understanding and opinion based on what feels right in your body. And then the ripple effect of that is we can naturally hold love for others.
Yeah.
Right? It's a completely different space. And so the other thing that comes up to me is the law of truth, right? So the law of truth is a universal law. Now, when we practice the law of truth and embody the law of truth, it's understanding that multiple truths can coexist. It's understanding that truth is just an opinion. Does truth even exist? Right? Truth is mutable. It's forever changing.
Mhm.
And as soon as we defend our truth, it's no longer our truth.
Yeah. I get
And
that.
and so and no matter if someone is on a completely different frequency to us, like we see in sometimes largely, I give the example of like when we're raising kids, is when you're talking to them and all they hear is white noise.
Yeah.
It's like all they hear is we're like, brush your teeth, go to the toilet, go to bed, and all they can hear is like la 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 la, right? And so what happens is the truth, when we're speaking our truth, no matter what we say, how we deliver it, all they will hear is white noise.
Mm.
They will not hear it. And so we can be so caught up in not speaking our truth because we don't know how it's going to be received and perceived by the other person.
Mm-hmm.
However, we have no control over that. We have no control over how our voices and our truth is going to be received and perceived. So
Mm-hmm.
all we can do is speak our truth, not water it down, because we are lucky enough to no longer be muted.
Yeah.
And we have a right to choose whether we're muted or not, right? And unfortunately, a lot of us are still muted. We still aren't using our voices, and we're still watering down or dancing around our truth because we're so afraid of how other people will be affected by our truth.
Yeah, because people weaponize shame
Yeah,
and put a layer of shame in the mix. That's
yeah,
why people are scared, because we're not connected in with the truth of who we are
yeah,
in our own estimation,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because that's what the work that I've done on myself has been, the more grounded you are in who you are, in your own estimation, so you're living your life through who you want to be, through who you choose to be. And that's why I think doing that work is so important, because when you do that, when you turn the mirror from facing outwards to facing yourself, and you look at who you really are, and you start to make choices about how you want to live your life and how you want to be out there, and someone attacks you for that, you're less likely to fall over or run away. Or
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to talk about this today, because, and I truly believe that life is a spiral. So we come back to the things like, so dealing with shame holography, people putting shame onto you. I think that's part of it. It's you constantly are coming back to it, and your reaction will be different depending on where you are in your journey of healing or of embodiment. Because the word healing, I believe, is more, it should be called embodiment more, because we're not broken. So we don't really need to heal. We just need to embody more of ourselves. And with that embodiment comes acceptance. So the more we can accept who we are as individuals, the less the shame will affect us. And I was surprised by my feeling of raw. I was surprised by that this time, because I felt like I was at a stage where maybe I could just keep walking and not worry about it. And it got me. It was another level, it was another level. It got me. And so I was like, oh, so I see this needs to be addressed.
I think that sometimes that raw, that fire is, I like it. Right? Because it reminds us, like, and that's, I think that sometimes when, like if you've done the work, right? And that, we're forever a student of the work. But, it's sometimes I feel like that the undercurrent of that, it says that we have to be submissive, and we have to be this walking calm. And that's just not correct, right? Because anger exists for a reason. It reminds us what we're truly passionate about. It's like, it's somatically, our bodies are saying, I really care about this. This is something I feel strongly about.
Yes, very true.
And that's beautiful.
Yeah. I guess it's how I choose to express the anger.
Yes.
That's the question here, because I don't want to be spewing the negativity and just continuing that negativity, right?
Absolutely.
So it's how I deal with that roaring feeling.
Yes.
And sometimes I can be quite cutting with my words. I can be like, I'm putting up a roadblock here. You're not coming down this road into my private, feelings or whatever. I'm blocking you out of here. And sometimes I think that's a stage, because you may not have dealt with that before. So the blockage there is a self-protection. And then, you get to choose down the line, like it's not so much a knee-jerk reaction anymore. It's a reaction that you've chosen to give. So you're responding rather than reacting, if you know what I mean. And that's the place that I want to get, because when I feel that raw inside, my leg wants to kick out and buck the other person away, that feeling of get away from me. And that's not necessarily always a good thing.
No, absolutely not. And that's what I practice with this, is a connection to self and a current that is so deep. And so for me, I call it the 5 powers of woman, and so for me, it's been anchored in what I call our smolder. And so our smolder is this soft power where we're held and we're receptive, and it feels really delicious. Like, you
like
just
that.
think of the word smolder, right? And it's just like this feeling of like, yes, like it's like, it's yum. And you want to sink your teeth into it a little bit or a lot. And so that's the foundation of this energy, right? And so when we're really tapped into what I call our 5 powers, and smolder really being the baseline and our default, you might say, of our operating system, then when you're so anchored and embodied and literally oozing through your veins, and your currency and essence moving through your body is this smolder, and it feels yum, right? Like it's this sense of yum. And so when we're anchored in this yum, you are never, ever, ever going to spit out
Yes.
anything toxic. It's not leaky energy, because really what that's spitting out is it's leaky energy,
Yeah,
right?
I get that.
But when you're anchored in this power of the smolder,
Mm,
then it's contained, right? You are in a space of absolute discernment
yeah.
and autonomy, and there is no spitting out of anything. You will articulate what you want to say, because your self-trust is so deep and unwavering, and you can say, I can say this, and whatever is happening here, I'm not available for it.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. That's the energy that yeah, that I was talking about, that wasn't available to me at the time when
Yeah.
the weaponized shame was happening.
Yeah.
And I dealt with it and it was fine.
Yeah.
But when I look at the way I want to deal with things, that's not it.
Yeah.
I want to deal with things like you're saying, it's like a grounding, a rooting within myself,
Mm.
so that whenever someone comes a knocking,
Yeah.
you know, and like I'm gonna shake it up in here. It's like, oh no, sorry, you weren't invited to the party.
Yeah.
We're not doing that today.
Yeah.
And coming from a place of a wellspring, you know, coming from that abundance of self in that
Mm.
situation, I feel like if there was more of that, those situations wouldn't be so, you know, I would be the tree with the deep roots rather than the tree that is being threatened to fall over. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's, I think that there's this space whereby, it's we learn and we grow and we do better. And it's really comes down to simple factors like, questioning, what kind of human do I want to be in this world? How do I want to feel? And the thing about it is most people, they won't do any sort of embodiment or devotion around their power or their smolder or their connection to self, um, until something happens.
Yeah, so true.
And so where now for me, it's a non-negotiable. Every morning before I do anything, there's some sort of ritual to self,
Right.
and where I'm anchored in my power. And when we do this, and science has proven that when we do this, it sets us up for hours of ease, right? And so then when someone does come into our field that's kind of spitting this, fire around,
Yeah.
their leaky energy around that feels very unwelcome, then you can just stand there and acknowledge, and you can be like, whoa, a little bit, like, hello, and it does. I think we never get to a point where we're like completely unwavering in it, right? Because we're human and we're going to be wavering. But if we practice this anchoring and default of smolder and self-trust, then someone can come into our path and we can be like, okay, I see that you feel very strongly about this. I I know my heart. I
Yes.
know my intention, right? And so people can question our intention, people can question our motives, people can question our words, but when we know our heart, then we never question that, right? And so then it can be something like, I feel that you feel really strongly about that. I feel this. And I'm sorry that you're perceiving it this way, but I know my heart.
Yeah.
I know my heart and I know my intention,
Mhm.
and it's of love, because we're unafraid to look at every single side of the story. We're
Yes.
unafraid. We know that we've researched. We know that we've done the work. We know that we can hold multiple truths at the same time.
High five to that. High
Yeah.
five to that. High five to that. Yes. Yes. I love how you brought it all the way back round to the beginning of the conversation. That was perfect, because I think when you're on the journey, you forget to stop and take stock of where you came from,
Yeah.
because I know I'm able to do that. I can see from multiple facets of the situation. And I have no problem with people explaining to me their side of the story or to their perspective. Have absolutely no issues with people being passionate about, what they believe, all of that stuff. Fine. Like, no problem whatsoever. It's when those same people are trying to shame me for being different, that's when my heckles get raised. And I think what you're saying about a practice every morning, filling your own cup, is giving you enough energy and enough of the energetic stores within your body to take a step back and not just roar back at somebody, get entangled into a situation that you don't necessarily want to be involved in. Because I think that's the part of it that, there needs to be a lot of self-trust there, because being drawn into an argument that you don't want to be drawn into, that is where I can sometimes kick myself and feel that I let myself down when I got hooked in. You know what I mean? Because it's so easy to start being involved in something that you didn't start it. You didn't want to be there. Not your fight to fight, but you get hooked in anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think there's so much like that just is constantly going on in the world, right? Like there's so much, and it's just been this tsunami of crap, crazy going on in the world. And
That's an
so,
understatement.
yeah. And so, you know, but we cannot allow ourselves to get sucked into every single thing, because otherwise it just brings you under, and we can't actually be of service to anyone, right? And I was having this conversation the other day, because I'm like, I was something with, I can't even remember what it was, but I was feeling frustrated about something, and it felt so trivial, because it was like when 14,000 babies were going to die in Gaza, right? And it was around, and I was like, it feels ridiculous to me when there's systematic starvation happening, and I'm having a wah about something that is not even important, really. But how can we care about the world? Because on the flip side of that is, we have to care about the world. We have to use our voice when it's something that we feel strongly about, right? When we do have that rage, sometimes rage is needed. Sometimes anger is needed. Sometimes expressing that rage is needed.
Yes, so
But
true.
when it's sucked into something that you go, how, this is not even about like this, how am I even here?
Yeah.
This is not where I want to be. Then you know that that's a narrative whereby you don't, right? And so in those situations, I will say, I don't know enough about this situation to have an opinion.
Yeah, I've said that many times.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so, you know, it's like I feel this. However, I don't know enough. And,
Yeah.
you know, I will often say is I like to research all sides of the story first,
Yeah.
you know, from reliable sources, and then I'll form an opinion, right? And sometimes it might be an area where I go, actually, that's a rabbit warren that I don't need to go down at all,
Yeah.
right? But sometimes it's actually, I deeply care about this and I am researching and reading and forming my own opinion
Yeah.
on it because I do genuinely care about it, because I feel like not enough people care about what's going on in the world.
Yeah, I would agree.
And so, not enough to shock them out of their everyday privilege because it doesn't affect me, you know. So, how can we, you know, do good and be, you know, active in amplifying voices and awareness from a place of love, reconciliation? But I was saying to a friend yesterday, there is no reconciliation until we can be open to hearing more sides of the situation.
Yeah, that's right.
No reconciliation.
I'll reconcile only if you agree with me.
Yeah.
Only if you're on the same side. And it's like,
Yeah.
hang on a minute, that's actually not
Not
the
reconciliation.
reconciliation. It's like, that's not part of it.
Yeah.
It's like we can't be lazy. We can't be complacent. And we can't really, and I feel like a lot of people, it's fine to be lazy if you're going to say, well, I'm not going to do any research, so I don't have an opinion, right? If you opt out, formed, and they are creating an opinion about it, about whatever the subject matter is, and going into battle about it.
Yeah.
When they don't know enough.
Yeah.
And so it's like, wow, you know, that's not something I want to. I mean, we're back to the beginning of the story now, where I grew up in a time when journalism was about reporting all sides of the story. So I have that desire within to do my research and to find out about things.
Yeah.
And not get sucked into conversations with people who don't really know
Yeah.
all the facets.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really important that, you know, it was funny. I was a couple of weeks ago, I was doing a grocery shop, and I do a grocery shop, same place, same time, same day, every week, usually. And so I was in the supermarket and I was there and she was like, "Hello." She's like, "I see you every week and you've always got a big smile on your face and I always admire your smile." And I was like,
Beautiful.
"Thank you," you know, and I said, "It's a very tired smile today." I said, "I am so tired." And she said, "Oh, so it's a fake smile." And I was like, "No." I said, "My smile is very real. I'm happy. I feel good. And
Interesting.
I'm very tired."
Yeah, they can
And
both happen at the same
they
time.
can both happen at the same time. And I think we forget this. And because most people are operating in survival mode, their
Yes.
operating system is in survival mode, which is a sense of battle, right?
Yes.
Everything is a battle, everything is a fight. And so then there's no connection to self.
Yeah.
There's no that yum, there's no yum. There's no, you know, and I say to my girls all the time, we choose. You can look at the world through the eyes and think the best of people, or you can think the worst of people,
Yes.
right? I was looking yesterday online because what's her name? Deborah Lee Furness.
Oh, yes.
made a comment about Hugh and their separation, right? And I don't usually get into celebrity gossip and stuff, but for some reason I was curious about the narrative of the comments and what people were saying.
Yeah.
And so I was looking on Facebook, and they were nasty comments about Deborah. Get over it. You're old. You've had your time. You're this. Like, it was horrible.
Wow.
I'm like, people are nasty. All she said was, I feel for anyone that's been on this journey.
Yeah.
And I'm like, she's been hurt. Like, anyone who's been hurt, it sucks. And it takes time to heal from that, right?
Yeah. And the horrible thing about that is she's not less of a quality person. She's
No.
not less than Hugh. She's not, just because she's older and she's a woman
Yeah.
doesn't make her any less valuable as a human
Yeah.
being. Like, that's what
Yes.
this is what it boils down to, really, at the end of the day, is that people's standards are influenced and they don't even know it.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're not even
Absolutely.
aware. It's like they don't even think twice about saying something like that
Yeah.
to another human being.
Yeah.
And it's like, hang on a minute, you need to check where that's coming from.
Yeah. Yeah.
We
Because would you say that to a
wouldn't say
friend?
that. No.
Like, if it was your friend sitting there and her husband cheated on you, probably multiple times, whatever, we don't know the inside of the story, but you're not going to say, just get over it, babe.
Yeah.
Like, you're really old and you've had a good run and now you can get put out to pasture. It's just weird. But interestingly enough, when I went onto Instagram, I saw the same thing. And I was like, I wonder what the comments say here.
Mm.
And there was a very different thread and flavor. So it was all very like she's better off without him, like Ryan Reynolds and Blake can have him, and and all this kind of completely different narrative, but still a narrative whereby we have to pick sides.
Yes.
We have to see someone as the enemy, and so quick to shame
Yes.
other people. And I'm like, I cannot imagine. Can you imagine walking around your day and thinking the absolute worst of every person that comes in your path? That would feel horrible. Like,
Mm.
I cannot imagine what their insides feel like.
But maybe for that person it's normal, so it feels normal.
It's so normalized. So normalized. I would say most people walk around completely unaware of their internalized bias.
Yeah. Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah.
100%, because they're living within their paradigm. And if their paradigm is that, that inclination,
Yeah.
then they're not going to understand other
Yeah.
ways of being, because they've been that way for so long.
Yeah.
And I think, the internet gives people a false sense of courage too, that they can say these things. It's like they've got something crap in their own lives that makes them angry and feel like crap.
Mm-hmm.
And so rather than dealing with it, they go online and they get it out by saying horrible things to other people, because they're carrying that rottenness from their own life within themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why I think this conversation is so important, because I don't want to continue spreading that when it comes to me, because it does sometimes. It comes to all of us sometimes.
All of us.
I don't want to choose to continue spreading it, but I don't want to take it on either.
Yeah.
There has to be a sack that we can pile it into and put it in the bin,
Yeah.
It has to be a rubbish bag that you can carry around with you, and every time you collect somebody else's crap, you can put it in that bag and get rid of it.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I don't want it. I don't want to carry it around with
No,
me.
no, absolutely not. And here's the thing is when you're anchored in your smolder, when you're
Yes.
anchored in your yum, you do not absorb anyone else's shite,
Yeah.
right? You just don't. So we're not sponges and we're not available to being a sponge,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And so this is where it comes back to the more anchored we are in the yum, then we don't have to worry about like, and sometimes we absorb it, right? Like
Yeah.
I find that there's, like for me it's probably family, and that I find the most challenging to not absorb it, right? Because you care so deeply about, like my kids, right? I care so deeply about them that sometimes I do soak it up, and then I have to remind myself of like, I'm the smolder. I'm not the sponge. I'm
Yeah.
the smolder, right? And so then we can go, okay. And I actually went to this production last week, and I really love what he had to say in the Welcome to Country. His name is Uncle James, and um, he was saying that in the, when you're on country, is that then, so he imagines then you receive from the left side of the body, and then you release from the right side of the body. So when you're on country, it's a current that you can move through your body. And I really loved that. When he
Yes.
said it, I just, some things it just lands. And
Yeah.
so ever since then, I've been actively just, when I'm going for my walks in nature, and, even, if I've just, walking, then I'm just imagining this, feeling this, receiving and releasing. And it's just this infinite flow and connection to the earth that actually feels really beautiful. And
Love
that's
that.
another way that we can just, and the good thing about that I loved is because I don't know about you, but I think is a lot for women is receiving is something actively that we have to allow to move through us. It's a conscious reminder, oh yeah, I get to receive.
Yeah.
I'm allowed to receive. I open myself up to receive. I don't have to overgive, because if I overgive, I under receive. And
Yes.
so it's really allowed me to go actively choose receiving. Okay, choose receiving. And so then it's this receiving, releasing. And it's been really beautiful.
Yeah. And that to me feels like when we receive the beauty,
Yeah.
when we are soaking up that beautiful energy, the nature and energy, or
Yeah.
whatever it is that we choose to soak up,
Yeah.
there's less room for crap
Yeah.
within. There's
Yeah.
less room. It's like you're saying, the smolder, when we're full of our own smolder
Yeah.
and we have that feeling within our bodies and within our energy field,
Yeah.
there's less room for the lower density
Yeah.
energies to come in,
Yes.
take up space.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it just bounces off.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely. And research has shown that when we're aroused, our disgust impulse weakens.
Right.
And so if we look at this through the lens of just the pleasure body, right? So if we're anchored into the yum, then automatically, we don't even have to think about it. The automatic ripple effect of that is we automatically see the world differently, with
Mm,
less disgust. We're more open,
beautiful.
right? There's more softness. There's just this real, I can dance with
Yes.
this, right? I can
We need
dance with
that.
it,
We need
and
that.
we get to feel good. People are
Yeah.
afraid of their pleasure. Like, people are like, oh no, I don't have time for it. I'm like, babe, it is your most non-negotiable, vital ingredient. You want to calm that nervous system. You want to, like, here's the thing is people talk about regulating the nervous system, right?
Yep.
All that keeps us in is, yes, it's very important. but we're managing our nervous system. We're just
Yes.
managing it. There's no thriving, there's no overflow, right? And so when we activate this currency of overflow, when we tap into our pleasure bodies, we're creating a new operating system for ourselves that actually takes us out of survival. And when we do that, we operate and see the world completely differently.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So I think we'll wrap up here on that note.
Yeah.
But I would love to talk more about that.
Yeah.
Would you come on, and the next time we see each other, we'll talk more about having that overflow and seeing the world differently. I would love that, because I really believe we need more of that in our lives. We need our cup to be fuller to be able to deal with this stuff. And this stuff won't feel so big.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
We can talk about all the things, but how do we actually change this? How do we actually move forward with this? Because that's where the real work is. That's these bold, audacious moves forward. That's what changes the game.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you, Renee.
You're welcome.
It was delicious.
So good to hang out with you.
You too. And we'll have you on again in a few months, and we'll do that. So thank you very much. And everyone, we'll see you next week. Thank you for joining us. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.